Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. All right. This reading is going to be on Nikki Haley, and it's because she annoys me. I'm insulted. It's one thing to watch Trump bring out the worst in people. But then to watch somebody like Nikki Haley, who could come across as a reasonable conservative. I realize for most people that's an oxymoron, but bear with me on this one. She could come across as a reasonable conservative until she starts using, white supremacist dog whistles. Like, she can't seem to understand why the Civil War started. Say it's about states' rights. And what did those states want to do with those states' rights? Oh, yeah, that's right. They wanted to have slavery, and they wanted all the new territories in the United States to have slavery. Why can't you say that? Recently, Texas has been making all sorts of noise about wanting to, quote, secede from the Union, unquote. Now, to be fair, when Trump got elected, a bunch of folks in California were saying the same thing. But let's throw it out there. And it felt good to say it because it was just like, you're just so frustrated that Trump's in there that it's like, I don't want to be a part of that. Can we be our own thing? And Governor Newsom, chuckled about it, said, no, we're not seceding from the Union. He shut it down pretty quickly and killed our fantasies. But, and the thought is, we don't have our sixth largest economy in the world or fifth largest economy in the world, depending on the year. How is the United States going to do without California in it? Well, that's exactly why they won't let us leave. You think they're going to just willingly let California go? Same thing with Texas. Texas wants to secede from the Union. That's super awesome. It ain't going to happen. First off, as Bo the Fifth Column would point out, well, with what military? Because the U.S. federal government's going to take back all their military bases and all the equipment on those military bases and move all those soldiers out of there. So you don't have any of that. Okay, you have your National Guard. Sure. And then all the federal contracts and defense contracts and stuff like that's going to go away. Everybody in Texas will lose their Social Security and their welfare because you're not a member of the United States anymore, and you're not going to get to carry that over with you. So there would be a mass migration out of Texas by people who want those benefits and don't want to be a part of Texas. Now, y'all might get a bunch of people moving to Texas like, don't want to be part of Biden's USA or whatever. Super. Okay, so you got a bunch of those folks in there. And then we'll fundraise to build a wall around Texas, and the northern, eastern, and western wall. But we'll leave the southern border open, and maybe Mexico would like to reclaim you. Good luck, Texas, against the Mexican army. I'm sure your AK-47s will do quite well against their tanks and their aircraft and helicopters and all sorts of stuff. But tell me again how Texas is super awesome. Anyways, long and short, it ain't going to happen. But Nikki Haley was saying Texas had the right to secede from the Union. Damn, what constitution are you reading from? Last time we had a bunch of states that tried to secede from the Union, we had a civil war. Well, she's now backtracked that to say, no, the Constitution doesn't allow for Texas to secede from the Union. I'm really getting tired of her and her antics because it's basically pandering to the far right. It's pandering to MAGA. It's pandering to QAnon. It's pandering to the white supremacists and such. And it's kind of like telling you who Nikki Haley really is. Say and do anything to get into power. This is not... Trump would be bad. Don't get me wrong. He would go to an authoritarian government overnight. I'm not so convinced Nikki Haley wouldn't do the same thing. Maybe she wouldn't. But I don't want to take the risk. So, Nikki Haley, what is going on with you? Why is it that you feel you need to reach out to these the far-right faction and such? I mean, I know the answer why, right? She's in an election, and she wants to win that election, and this is how she does that. She feels that if she's in a one-on-one with Joe Biden, she can beat him on a one-on-one. And I think there's polling numbers to support that. I don't know if MAGA would show up for her. That's the part about the polling numbers I don't get. Is that I think it assumes MAGA shows up. If MAGA doesn't show up, I don't see how she gets the votes. Yeah, will she have more independents? Sure. But will those be, who's more, the independents or the MAGA voters? Entertainment purposes only. She's got a burdensome campaign because she's got to go against Trump and she's got to appeal to the far right. And then she's got to say stuff to appeal to the far right in order to get their support should Trump bail out. But if she's a woman of her word, now she's on record saying she's going to do crazy stuff like that. She's trying to walk this fine line, and she's not very good at it because she keeps getting called out on it. Oh, yeah, she is basically hitching herself up to. She's trying to carry this burden to become the president, and she is slowly hitching herself up to Donald Trump and the MAGA crowd. Now, right now, she keeps attacking Trump's mental faculties and stuff like that. She's doing what she can to get the presidential nomination. And if that means you have to blow dog whistles to white supremacists and militia groups and crazy ultra-right Freedom Caucus folks, well, she's willing to do that. Underneath it is a Five of Cups moment, a disappointment, a loss. It's here's the thing that what she's doing is if you're trying to appeal to this group, you're going to start losing those independent voters. They're going to start seeing your rhetoric. It's going to be posted up there. And they're going to start wondering, is this really the person that we want? You know, we don't want Trump, but, you know, is she any better? You know, she's coming across as bad as that. And I think there's going to be an unintended consequence is that she's going to lose support from the very people she needs to win the general. In order to win the primary, she has to appeal to Trump voters. And by appealing to Trump voters, you're costing yourself the independent voters who you need to win the general. Got it? American politics are so... Okay, we've grown up in American politics and we get it, but I feel really bad for the folks from Europe or Canada looking at this going, what the hell is wrong with you people? You got two elections. You got primaries and generals. The primary is the popularity contest between the major parties to find their one candidate that they're going to have run for that position, whether it's president or senator or House of Representative members in a certain district. And then after you have your popularity contest, then you have the election between the two popular candidates to see who's going to win. And in the United States politics for the last 10 years or so, you could be a right-wing, a very far extreme on the right wing as Republican and win the primary. The way the Republicans Party has gone, it's so far to the right that the more outrageous and the more fashy that you are, the more likely you have to win the primary. But, okay, so now you win the primary, now you got to go against a Democrat in the general. Now, if you're in a really protected conservative area, the crazier you get, the closer you get to Hitler in your political leanings, the more likely you are to win the primary, which means you'll win the general because there's way more Republicans than Democrats. And right now in American politics, Republicans are not going to vote for Democrats and Democrats are not going to vote for Republicans. So they'll win. If you're in a contested area where it's a pretty even mix, you can win the primary, but you're never going to win the general if you're holding on to far right-wing talking points because independent voters are going to be turned off by it. The Democrats won't vote for you, but the independents, the ones who haven't made up their mind, won't support you either. So you can win the primary in a really conservative district and win the general, but in anything contested, you will not win the general election. And that's what Nikki Haley is facing. It's like she has to look at her values here. I didn't even write on the card. She had values at one point, and she's sacrificing them to appeal to the MAGA crowd because she wants to get that presidential nomination, and she's going to drive away the independent support she needs to win the general. She can win the primary with this. She cannot win the general unless she has this support, and she's losing that support. Current situation is victory. Her plan is working. She is convinced that she can win the presidency. She just needs to get past Trump. She needs to get the Republican nomination, and then she can win the general. The problem is, again, Trumpism and MAGA, they eat around the edges of your morality and your ethics, nibbling around the corners. And, this cookie here, these values, you start getting nibbled. You start talking about Texas being able to secede from the Union. You start talking about the Civil War was not because of slavery. And every time you do that, you're causing independents to look at you and go, I don't know. Yeah, you might be winning today, but you may not win tomorrow. You might alienate too many people to do that. Overarching energy is the strength card. Nikki Haley is trying to project strength and mastery. She's got foreign policy because she was the ambassador to the UN, and by going after Trump and pointing out his mental decline, as well as Biden's mental decline from her point of view, she thinks she's in a strong point to actually win this election. In previous readings I had with Nikki Haley that she may not win the election. I think I see her dropping out. But I also see Trump giving her the VP position. Again, we'll see what happens. The lesson to be learned is the justice card. I think what this is telling me is, for all your victories, for all your strength, there's a price to pay. When you say stuff like the Civil War was not about slavery, when you basically say Texas can secede from the Union and you have to backtrack and say it can't, there's a price that you pay for this. And it's with the independent voters. The very people you need to get you, the very people that will get you here are here. Outcome. Page of Wands. She's going to continue her messaging. She's going to continue her journey forward towards the presidency and towards this Six of Wands moment. But the further she walks down that path, the more she's impacted by people not liking what they see. Yours truly included. My brother, as you have seen in previous readings, my brother is still a registered Republican. I think he would vote for Nikki Haley. He certainly is not going to vote for Trump. Guarantee you Gary will not vote for Trump. He probably would vote for Nikki Haley. Now, the thing is, if I start pointing out all this stuff to him, hey, what about this, Gary? What about, did you know that the Civil War was not about slavery? That's what Nikki Haley says. Oh, by the way, Nikki Haley also says Texas can secede from the Union. Start just hitting him with all this stuff. And, after a while, he's going to be disgusted and say, you know what? Let me write in Ronald Reagan or something like that. But it's about getting that messaging out. He's like that independent voter. He's not independent. Again, he's a Republican, but he's a never Trumper. So that's the kind of person that Nikki Haley is hoping to get his vote. Now in California, it doesn't matter. Democrats going to win California. But if there are people like my brother out there in much redder states or much more purple states, she's losing. She's going to lose people like that as they understand who she is and what she's all about. Okay. Nikki Haley, where are we going to go with here? That's what? Okay, so what's up with Texas? Little Four Carter. Why are you walking back your thing on Texas? What's the matter? What happened? What's the deal with Texas? Tower moment. She probably started seeing some feedback that saying you can't say that you're wrong on that one. Something happened after she made that statement. Got some polling numbers or something along those lines. She had to do damage control, basically. You got the Seven of Swords, the Knight of Wands. Okay. underneath it all, she was trying to reach out and make a connection with folks in Texas. Hey, I'm your girl. You don't have to vote for Trump. I'm here to represent you. You guys want to secede from the Union? And here's the Rio Grande right here. You guys go ahead and do that. We can do that. We're all on the same team. I support Texas. But the problem is, it's pointed out to her that you're inviting civil war. That's your second Civil War moment that you've had. One is saying that slavery was not the cause of the Civil War, and now you're saying Texas can secede from the Union, which is what caused the Civil War. It's part of her plan again to get conservative votes, but I think that saying Texas can secede from the Union was too far afield from her message, and now she has to go do damage control. This could be Texas leaving, but I think it's also, if you were to look at it, polling numbers amongst independents, especially if you go back to that 5 of Cups, she might start seeing that after saying that her numbers are going down. And the chuckle was, yeah, and probably a couple of her wealthier donors were saying, you want our money, you better stop doing stuff like that, or we're going to take our money and go elsewhere with it. So on the one hand, she's trying to reach out and, bond with the folks from Texas, saying, I'm with you. I appreciate your independent spirit. But it's going to start costing you donations. It's going to start costing you support. Okay. I'll throw it again. Nikki Haley says she's going to stay into the election until at least Super Tuesday. By the spring equinox, which is, again, the 21st of March, 2 weeks after Super Tuesday, will Nikki Haley, what's going to be the status of her presidential campaign? I've read on this before. Let's see if the energy's changed. Illusions and delusions. Searching for the value in the craziness. Super Tuesday is not going to go well for her. She might be able to find some baubles, good points here and there, but I do think Trump is going to continue to take the majority of stuff on Super Tuesday. We're going to have some messaging going on here. Information coming in fast. King of Wands. You know what? Yeah, okay. Let me throw the other card here. Okay, that makes sense. New journey. Okay. After Super Tuesday, by the spring equinox, she's evaluating whether or not to keep her campaign going. She's waiting on the Supreme Court and the Department of Justice with some rulings that they've got coming down the pike. This is the Presidents Are Not Kings ruling, but more importantly, what's going to happen with Colorado. Because, again, she's feeling like, if they kick him off the ballot in Colorado and some other states, she's going to win those states and get those electoral votes, which could fuel her campaign and get her the nomination. So her whole strategy is hang on long enough that maybe the courts will undermine Trump and she'll get those electoral votes. She's going to get the information pretty quickly after Super Tuesday, how the court's going to rule. Underneath it is the Queen of Pentacles, again, looking at her values, looking at her campaign, looking at the finances coming in her campaign. She has to decide, is it worth continuing with her campaign? And underneath it all, is it foolish for her to keep going with this, or is it a new journey? And it could be both. I think by the spring equinox, she is really contemplating whether she's going to suspend her journey. But it really depends on what the Supreme Court rules on this one. If they rule that Colorado and other states can kick Trump off because he engaged in insurrection, then this is a new journey for her. She's going to stay in here thinking that she might be able to get enough votes. And that, she could be the alternate selection on this one. If they rule that he has to stay on because they use like the Purcell principle as saying, he might have engaged in insurrection, but it's too late to change. It's far too close to the election to bring this up. He gets to stay on all the ballots. Then she has to worry. It's like, I'm not going to get Colorado's votes. I'm not going to get some other things here. Do I keep going? Do I have the money and the values to keep going here? Or is it foolish for me to keep going? That's what I'm getting with Nikki Haley. I don't envy her position. All right, last one. Much longer read. What's Nikki Haley's political future going to look like in 2028 and beyond? Let's assume that she does not get the Republican nomination. Let's assume she does not is not part of the presidential election in 2024 or get into office. What's her political viability looking like in 2028? Because a lot of this, there's speculation she's setting herself up, not so much for this election, but for next one. What's her political viability looking like in the future, like in 2028? Not so good. She's tied herself to some things. Like if she were for instance, if Trump were to ask her to be the VP and she says yes, she has forever bound herself to MAGA. And it would be on the way out. Her points of view on things are not going to, they're going to come back and haunt her, and they're going to really restrict what she can do going forward. We got the Ace of Swords, the King of Wands. There's your court rulings here. The Hanged Man, she's a willing sacrifice. I don't think it's her looking at things differently. There's going to be some court rulings that will eventually happen. This could be the American public just looking at it, but to me, this has always been my Department of Justice. This is going to be like, the court rulings against Trump or all the Trump legal cases that are going on. And it's too late for her to have her Ace of Swords moment. She can't say she's a crusader because it's too late for that to happen. She's going to have shown to have benefited. Again, like if she were to agree to be Trump's VP, she loses this sword. She lost her, as an independent candidate, she could say, I'm against Trump. I'm a never Trumper. But at the same time, she benefited from Trump. And she got a bunch of money from the Koch brothers and such. This is not a great card. It's like, again, she's got like a millstone or albatross, a millstone around her neck or an albatross on her deck. And it could just be something as simple as all the statements about Texas seceding from the Union and the Civil War. It comes back to saying, you're not presidential material. You don't even know your basic history. Why did you say such things? You're aligning yourself with MAGA, and we're disgusted with MAGA. We want nothing to do with you. I don't think Nikki Haley has much of a political future. To me, this is her best gambit, and I don't think it's going to pan out for her. But her life, her choices, she gets to do what she wants. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your likes and your shares and your comments and everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so that my video makes it out to a wider audience. To folks just discovering this channel recently, welcome. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.